playoff start and it's in the middle of April, and just slow your roll a little bit. And not every game is necessarily gonna be a blowout. The other part that I think we're gonna have to just realize now is a budding reality is the bench is going to be a roller coaster ride. The Warrior bench this season is going to be a roller coaster ride between big time performances and struggling to find combinations and the like. Jordan Poole got it going in the game tonight offensively, 24 points. James Wiseman had 14, 12 of those 14 quickly in his first run of what wound up being just under 20 minutes of action, 5 of 7 from the floor in this game. But there are going to be times where that bench group is going to allow teams back in games. I think that's just reality at this point for the Warriors, especially if 3 and at times 4 of the super young players are going to be playing together. I think there's going to be windows in games where it feels like the Warriors are in control, and then that group loses some of the rope and some of the control on things, and the Warriors are going to have to go back and re-win some games after that. I think the bench could also solidify themselves, find the right combinations of vets and young players and which skill sets should be out there at the same time. And I think at that point everything could work itself out and be better by the end of the season. But at this point, I think acceptance of the roller coaster ride that it's probably going to be is the best thing that you can do if you're a Warriors fan. All right, we'll pause briefly here as we begin the 9 o'clock hour.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco. Always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app.
And we are live on Twitch and YouTube, and of course on the app and on 95.7 The Game. John Dickinson inside Chase Center, where the Warriors were victorious over the Sacramento Kings tonight, 130 to 125 on the Xfinity mobile text line here from the 657, getting us rolling. The Warriors can't be struggling to close out bad teams at home. The problem was not necessarily the closeout, at least down the stretch. They did enough to win it down. It was putting themselves in a position where they even had to close them out. And look, I'm not one that always thinks that every game against a bad team, and I still think at this point, I know Steve Kerr, I think, has tried to be nice about it when talking about Sacramento, and I think he did it after the game, and we're going to hear it here coming up in a few minutes. But the Kings can say they've had 3 close losses, but they've really been bad for extended stretches in a lot of these games, and they've wound up being semi-close. They are still a bad team until they prove otherwise, and that means you got to start winning some games here or there. But I just it isn't going to be easy for a lot of these younger players playing together. And I think that's what we've seen. I mean, you look at the first half rotation tonight, you've got DiVincenzo out there with JaMychal Green, but then you've got Wiseman, Moody, and Poole, 3 very young players all playing together. Second half, DiVincenzo's not out there, so Steve Kerr goes to Klay Thompson. But then you've got Jordan Poole out there trying to figure out his way in being the big-time scorer of that unit, but then he's also got Wiseman out there and Kuminga out there with Moody as well, and that was really the turning point that gave Sacramento life with that group. I think there's just going to be an understanding, an expectation, just whatever it is, that it's not always going to go smoothly with that group, and sometimes some leads are going to get a little bit dicier than you'd want to have them be, and tonight that was the case. It really was. I think you saw the Warriors try to avoid it, but it's almost unavoidable with the players that are built-in members of the rotation. So 888-957-9570, that is the phone number to give me a call or shoot me a text here. John Dickinson inside Chase Center as the Warriors beat the Sacramento Kings tonight, 130 to 125. All's well that ends well at the end of the day, as long as you get the win and move on. But it's a situation where this is going to be a little more problematic if you do it against some better teams in this type of situation. All right, let's get to Ricky getting us started here on the phones. What's going on, Ricky? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, John. Thank you for having me on. It was a good game up and down. I got my NBA League Pass. I'm in Boston. So me and my dog Rambo, he's also an English Bulldog. We had our Klay Thompson jerseys ready and we were watching the game. It was, as a Klay Thompson fan, I was a little disappointed. I don't know if you remember, I called you the other night. I talked about Klay Thompson's confidence. He's a confident player, and I didn't like the way, Steve Kerr uses Klay, in and out. And it kind of showed today. I saw Klay, his body language. I didn't like his body language. He had his head down. He just, missed a couple of shots. He really didn't have any rhythm, And then, he made a couple of, good defensive stops the last, 2.5 minutes against the Kings, against Fox. I think he was one-on-one with Fox. And he made, maybe 2 or 3 good stops defensively. But I don't know. I think Steve Kerr's just trying to make everybody happy. You know what I mean? He got too many players. And, it showed, like you said, in that run in the third quarter, when the Kings, what was it, third quarter, fourth quarter, when the Kings made that late run there. And,
they got back.
I don't know.
They got back in it a little bit in the third, but it was mainly the fourth quarter where they really came from, 19-20 and cut it all the way to 4.
Yeah, I just like, you know what I mean? Like, Klay's just, Klay's a confident player. He needs to be out there. And if you keep just, messing with his minutes like this, it's really no point. Like, you know what I mean? He's not going to be the same Klay. Like, I saw the last preseason game against the Nuggets. That Klay Thompson looked strong, looked confident. He scored 18 points in 20 minutes. I was like, okay, now we're rolling. Now I'm happy. We're going to have the old Klay back. And then since then, the last 3-4 games, of the season, Klay just looks a little off, man, because of his minutes coming in and out. Just want to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Well, and tonight was the worst of the 3 games that he's played, but it was the most minutes that he played. And they're just going to be careful with Klay Thompson. That's the bottom line. It's just he's going to get up into the 30s, but he's going to get up into the 30s with a 2-minute increase over the course of the next handful of games that he's playing in. And I think that's smart because the Warriors do need to make sure that they have a healthy Klay Thompson for the end of the season. And really more importantly than even the end of the regular season is the playoffs. And so I know everybody's kind of fixated on old Klay and can he get back and wanting this team to function in a way that we're used to seeing them function over the course of their championship run. But I do think the one thing that everybody's going to have to accept at some point is the fact that this team for 2022-23, this team is going to have to get it done differently than last year's team did, which is differently than the teams from 17 and 18, which is different from the teams of 15 and 16 that won championships in their own way, and 14 and 15 more specifically, but really that 2-year span where they won the one championship and the 73 games in the regular season. Each team is going to be a little bit different, and all you have to do is look at the way last year ended to the way this year has started and all the young players and Jordan Poole's new role and Klay Thompson getting back to what he was before, at least trying to. Hell, Wiseman didn't play a lick last year, and now he's somebody that's in the rotation because he's a good young player that has to grow. All right, 888-957-9570. Let's keep it rolling. Nil in the North Bay. What's going on, Nil?
Yo, hey, just coming home from the game with my 10-year-old daughter. It's her birthday. Shout out, Satya. John, love your work. Appreciate it. First-time caller. Here's my take. All right. So I'm not going to lie. At the end of the game, it was a little bit of a nail-biter. It was kind of nerve-wracking. The whole crowd kind of got back into it. Oh, my God, we're down by 6. What are we going to do? All right, we're not down by 6. Just 6 points to catch up. But check it out. They're getting minutes under the bench. This is exactly what they need to do. The beginning of the game, they're showing you, all right, we're reigning world champions. No big deal. We all know these 5-6 guys can get it done. So it's a win to be getting the bench out there, just be developing this team. Early season, just want to say I like what I'm seeing from the bench, even if they've got some work to do. So, thank you, Kerr, for letting them do it. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciation.
Yeah, no, thanks for the call, Neil. Appreciate it. 888-957-9570. It's all I'm saying is it's going to be up and down. And there have been positive moments. They outscored the Lakers bench. I mean, the Lakers bench stinks, but that was a headline as to how the Warriors beat the Lakers, was the bench, the depth, more playable players by a lot than LA had. The bench was part of the downfall of game number 2 against the Nuggets, but tonight it was a mixed bag. They were good at times, and Jordan Poole had his best game, and the Warriors needed the 24 points and the efficient 24 points that he was able to provide. I thought in the first half the bench was real good. The second quarter, the bench was good. And Jonathan Kuminga, not a member of the rotation there, and Moses Moody got his minutes, and they really helped the Warriors get on that run in the second quarter. I mean, it was DiVincenzo with Poole, Moody, JaMychal Green, and Wiseman. And Wiseman had a nice offensive half. Poole had his best offensive game of the season, like I said, and the Warriors were able to push the lead up to 20 and then end up 18 and go for that 50-point quarter with Curry starting to go off there as well. So then in the second half, the bench completely let the Warriors back in the game. And you're not going to want to miss what Steve Kerr had to say about the bench and what really irked him a little bit about the second half. It was something that I can definitely understand why it would be upsetting if you're the head coach of the Warriors. Let's get Robin in San Francisco. Hey, Robin, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, JD. So you kind of took what I had to say in that every year, since the championship, the bench, it's been different. The Warriors are like the revolving door. Now they're at an impasse, and so they're a revolving door. And they're different than last year because they got some vets there. So now they've got more youth there, and that hasn't been there. And so I think we're right back at point one with the bench in terms of running that second unit. It seems to me that when Poole and they're out there with vets, and that makes sense. They play better. I think that Poole still has to be developed, and I'm worried that Warrior fans think that he has totally arrived, and he hasn't. He's just further along in his development, and I can see where he might struggle a little bit guiding that second unit because he's not used to playing with those that are not, quite as far along as he. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, and also that point out that James Wiseman can't set a screen to save his life. Bye, you guys.
Thanks, Robin. 888-957-9570. I think that's an excellent point about, Wiseman, too, but I think the point about Jordan Poole now being farther along in his development where he still has a ways to go if he's going to become an all-star or a superstar, but also he has to now play with players that are less developed than him for longer stretches. And does that impact him or test his patience or whatever? I think that's another component to that as well. I think that's a fair point. Like, he's almost got it on both ends. He's got to continue to develop his game to raise it, but he's also trying to help elevate the play of that entire group because they are dependent on his ability to score for sure. They don't really know what they're going to get offensively from the rest of that group, although they did get enough offensively, in particular from Wiseman and efficiently tonight to get to 14 points. And he was a help in his time back into the first quarter and on into that second quarter with the run that he was able to get. 888-957-9570. Let's go ahead and hear from Steve Kerr following this one as the Warriors beat the Sacramento Kings 130-125. Here's the head coach of the Warriors.
Steve, what do you think about the way the Kings took a 26-point deficit, transformed that into just a 4-point deficit, and just the furious nature of the finish?
Yeah, they did a good job getting back in the game, but we won. So I'm looking at the positive. We played at times brilliantly, and we couldn't sustain it. So it was closer than it should have been, but I give Sacramento a lot of credit. Mike's doing a great job with those guys. They're fighting, they're competing. They've had 3 close losses now to start the year. They've gotten a lot better, and we let our guard down, and they took advantage of it. But we got the win, and I'm pleased with that.
How much of your goal entering the fourth was to try to, give the youth the whole quarter and not have to bring the veterans back in?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a balance. I think Dante's injury kind of messed up, the rotation a little bit, and put a lot of pressure on JP as a playmaker. And we had Clay's minutes restriction, so we went to him to start the fourth to try to get a little more offense out there. But I think the ball just stopped moving. I mean, we had 24 assists for the game. I think 8 in the second half. Ball completely stopped moving. Not just during the stretch, when we were giving up the lead, but throughout the third quarter, I thought it was just one pass shot over and over again. So everything that happens during the game contributes to what happens later on. And we had several bad possessions that, even with our first unit, that set a bad tone. So tough sledding for that second group, but they'll get better, and it's a good experience for them.
Hamstring for Dante.
He won't go to Phoenix, and we'll reevaluate for the road trip, or for Miami, and then the road trip after that.
Gotcha.
Steve, what are your thoughts going into the half with a 18-point lead, but giving up 71 points to the Kings in the half?
Well, it was a furious pace in the first half, but they spread you out, and De'Aaron Fox puts a lot of pressure on you. So. The first half I thought we played really well. There were too many stretches where we fouled, and they get to the line, and now we have to play in the half court. So that was my biggest disappointment in the first half, was just the fouling. But otherwise, we had great flow, and the ball was moving. As I said, 16 assists first half, and then second half was a totally different story. We played very poorly and let our guard down, but we'll learn from that.
There was a play in the early fourth. I mean, you called timeout right after. You were particularly upset about it. Was it something that happened on that
transition defense? Yeah, the main thing was just the lack of energy. You got a group of reserves out there. Those guys should be dying to be on the floor and flying around and playing with huge energy. And that was what I was upset about. It was a careless transition defense possession. There was no juice, no life to that group. And we're going to have to find what we're looking for in terms of energy and leadership. It's not entirely fair to them to put all those guys together, but it's a tough league. It's sink or swim, and you gotta figure it out.
To stay with the positive, Jordan did get going offensively more tonight with 24 points. What do you think about his game overall?
He was great. He got to the rim, knocked down some threes, got to the foul line, did a lot of really good things for us.
And then some more earlier minutes tonight for Moses Moody. What do you think about him and his game overall too?
Well, Moses does a good job out there understanding spacing and, being in the right place, playing good defense. So Moses was fine. He didn't really get anything going offensively, but he was a good part of our first half, getting the lead and finding that flow offensively as a group.
Steve, what's your assessment of how the team's playing now after these first 3 games at home? Has some moments, particularly first quarters, giving up a lot of points, some explosive moments, but just in general, your impression of the first 3 games of the season?
I think we're right where we need to be, honestly. I didn't think the first 2 games we were really ready to get over the hump physically, conditioning wise. And I thought the Denver game was really good for that. Just to feel the pressure of the game and to feel the nature of how we had to play to get back in it. I think it took us to another level conditioning wise, to where our starters, guys like Wiggs and Draymond and Steph and Loon, could ramp it up and play at a high level for longer periods. We're getting Clay there, but he's got some work to do. So all in all, to be where we are, 2-1, relatively healthy. We're heading in a good direction.
How about that all bench set?
I think we've had some good moments, and I thought the first half they were brilliant. We had some really good moments between Jordan and James, in their two-man action. Dante did some great things out there, playmaking and spacing the floor. He's had good moments the first three games. So we've had some success, but we still have to to build more of an identity with that group and more of a flow, and we'll get there.
All right, building an identity and a flow with the bench group, a big part of the Warriors, what they have to do moving forward, that according to the head coach. And I think a lot to chew on there. The part that stood out to me the most was the lack of energy that he talked about from the young guys. And in particular, I think he's referring to the beginning of the fourth quarter and almost just not excited to get out there and play, with an opportunity to grow and shine and improve, basically. And it was an 18-point game, so it's not a lock at that point. You go out and play well, push it back up to 25-26, then you might end up playing the whole quarter if you're that group, because the starters wouldn't have to go back in the game. But I think a little bit of a message being sent there from Steve Kerr, as far as, you got to have a desire to get out there if you're a player that's trying to develop, whether that's Wiseman or Kuminga or Moody. And there was just a kind of a blasé feel, like everybody expected the game to continue to be a blowout, but nobody really felt like working to turn it into the blowout. And so, you hit the Kings for 89 points in the first half, you let up, and then it gets to a point where you've got your young group out there, and they let the lead get chopped down even further, to the point where the starters that are sitting over there on the bench are thinking, all right, the night's over for us. We're on cruise control, and then Steve Kerr's got to call a timeout and get them back in. They wind up being able to do just enough to hold on and get the win. But that could have been ugly stuff, as the Warriors avoid that disaster. And again, it's so reminiscent of the two games last year that the Warriors lost the big leads in. But I do think that it is a work in progress with that young group, so there has to be some patience, and again, not necessarily the expectation that every game is going to be Steph being dominant and Klay looking like it's 2018 and Draymond, doing what Draymond does, and Poole's now emerging into a star. Over an 82-game season, it just doesn't look that way all the time. And I think if you watch other teams in the NBA, you see it. Steph Curry, though, he's looked like Steph Curry to this point in the early going of the season. Just a tremendous start for Steph, as he ends up with the 33 points tonight, which is the third consecutive 30-point game for Steph. Second time in his career that he's began a season with 3 30-point games. He did that going back 4 years ago. So the 18-19 season, that team obviously among the fifth that went on to go to the NBA Finals for that fifth consecutive year. All right, 888-957-9570. We'll pause here. We'll come back. Still time for a couple of more phone calls, and then we will hear from Jordan Poole before we call it a night. Warriors 130, Kings 125, and you heard it right here on 95.7 The Game.
Are you interested in new career opportunities in the Bay Area and want to make a difference in your community? The San Francisco Sheriff's Office is looking for people considering a job in law enforcement right now. If you're at least 20 years or older with a high school diploma or equivalent, the San Francisco Sheriff's Office wants to hear from you. Enjoy full benefits, flexible schedules, and opportunities for growth and promotion. For employment announcements and more information, visit sfsheriff.com. That's sfsheriff.com to apply today.
Okay, 3 more climbers, 7 loggers.
Ted's sustainably sourced logging company is growing a new branch.
What about truck driver contracts?
Which means a new HR manager will be the first hire to fall.
Then we'll need to staff up the warehouse.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code JOY at checkout. That's harrys.com, code JOY. Enjoy.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you may be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you the money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types can qualify, including those that took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help you too. Just go to GetRefunds.com, click on Qualify Me, and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
Let me guess. Unknown caller? You could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection. The latest innovation from Discover. We'll help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And we'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection.
I used to get frequent heartburn at night, so I made Prilosec OTC part of my morning routine.
1 pill in the morning, 24 hours, 0 heartburn with Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
We're all on this planet together, so join Odyssey and find your one thing. Now that it's autumn, check window and door seals for proper insulation and replace your furnace air filter. Join Odyssey, and together, each of us doing one thing makes a greener tomorrow. What's your one thing?
For 25 years, Buy Right Market in San Francisco has partnered with purveyors of deliciousness to bring you local food that adds a dash of unique to every meal and celebration. Hi friends, this is Jamie, Buy Right's head of product. And this season, whether you're planning an elaborate meal, watching the game, heading to a friend's, or cozying up for a night in, Buy Right will help you savor what matters most. Pre-order your holiday meals at buyrightmarket.com or stop by and discover something unique for yourself. Gather, share, and enjoy with Buy Right.
Fremont Bank. If there's one thing we understand more than anybody, it's that it takes a local bank to really get the needs of local businesses. Fremont Bank has the flexibility and motivation to service your business loan needs like other banks can't or won't. With our full suite of business loan products and recognition as a top SBA lender in the Bay Area, Fremont Bank is the right choice for local and family-owned businesses. Fremont Bank. Learn more at fremontbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Curry waits, sets up a screen, catches on the right side. Rips the ball through low on Barnes. Takes a contested 2 and knocked it down. Nothing but net.
You can't stop him right now.
94-75. Curry has over 1/3 of the Warrior points.
Now back to Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
John Dickinson back in Chase Center. You hear Tim Roy, Tom Tolbert on the call there as the Dubs beat the Kings 130-125. 888-957-9570. We can still sneak in a couple of more phone calls. We're also going to hear from Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins before we call it a night. But let's get back to the phones here and go to Al in Alameda next on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on tonight, Al?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking my call here. Yes, hey, look, I have a little issue about this
taking out the player too early. And I've seen this like 6 times last season, and we got to put him back in again. That's kind of embarrassing in a way. It's not to the player who's in the floor, to the NBA, and you take him out. Curry, they got to put him back in because I don't know. The defense, or we're just getting tired? Is it the fatigue of their age, or I don't know what's going on there. We, taking him out too early, then you don't put him back. Like Curry, normally he comes in like 7 minutes, and I flew back to ALCS, and I flew back to what? Curry's back in 2 minutes, and then 5 points behind, a 5 points lead. That's it. And I just got an issue on that. Can you give me a little shed on that, please?
Yeah, no, well, here's the deal. I mean, it was the normal rotation as far as, starters are going to get subbed out and come back in. It was a normal rotation. You're just hoping when you go to the young players with a 19-point lead at the beginning of the fourth quarter, because your starters are getting their normal rest, that, the hope is, but it's never a sure bet, but the hope is that they can maintain the lead or grow the lead, and if they do, then you don't have to put the starters back in the game. As far as earlier in the game, like I don't think there's been any issue with Steph being held out too long, and then you put him back in the game, too late. If anything, tonight was an example of. I actually thought, to be perfectly honest, that Steve Kerr might not even put the starters back in the game. That was something that ran through my mind when it hit the 5:18 mark, I believe it was, late, and the Kings cut the lead to 12. It was 125 to 113, so 26 had gotten all the way down to 12 with that Poole, Thompson, Moody, Kuminga, Wiseman group, and Ryan Rollins came in for Clay a couple of minutes before that, and so Poole was out there with Rollins, Moody, Kuminga, and Wiseman, and I know Steve Kerr was hoping he didn't have to, but I there was a part of me just kind of looking at the bench thinking, is he going to do it, or is he going to almost let the young players have to try to finish it? We've seen coaches do that before where it's like, hey, you guys don't have the energy, and the starters, I don't want to send them in cold just to salvage it. And there was just a thought that, maybe Steve Kerr would have got a wild hair and said, you know what? You guys need to bring it. You're not bringing it. And if you can't finish it, then you can't finish it. And that we'll lose the game. And I'll go into the press conference, and it'll be a teachable moment and a learning moment. Now, I think tonight, early in the season, was not the time to do that. And so he sent the starters back out there. But I think the plan was to go as long as possible without putting him back in there, because you're hoping you don't have to put him back in there at all. And then when things go awry, you end up having to put him back in there. But yeah, that crazy thought did enter my mind that he may just say, you know what, young guys, fight through it. Work through it. And if you can't get to the finish line, and look, the Warriors got lucky. I know the Warriors are missing a couple of layups and had some funky possessions even after the starters came back in. But, man, the Kings were Monk hits a 3. Fox missed a couple little short turnarounds. This thing could have been a lot worse than it wound up with the Warriors hanging on. All right, let's hear a little bit from Jordan Poole. Best game of the year to this point for him offensively, 24 points. And here's JP3 after this one.
Still just 3 games into the season, where would you kind of assess the second unit chemistry, what you guys are doing? It has been very fluid with the lineups and combinations and stuff so far.
Still trying to figure it out, what lineups and rotations fit the best. Yeah, like you said, it's only the third game of the season. It'll take a little bit of time. I know we do a lot with our rotations early on in the season, but just try to figure out the best lineups and matchups. So trying to gain chemistry all around the board.
Steve talked about just needing more energy, especially in the fourth quarter. And he was kind of disappointed with that. Do you feel like, since you're kind of that anchor of that second unit, that you have maybe a little bit more responsibility being in your fourth season to just kind of set the tone for that group?
Somewhat just being a primary ball handler, trying to control the game a little bit, but also still making the right play. I think later in that fourth, we had a younger lineup in there. So just finding ways to close the game. If anything, I know we had a big lead. So just trying to find ways to close the game, make the right decisions. Continue to play our offense, and I think that's something that we'll gain over the course of the season.
One of the stories kind of coming out of the last game, and we didn't talk to you after, I think you took like 5 shots or so, and there's more attention on you this season, defensive attention. Took more shots tonight, obviously scored more. What collectively has this 3 games been like? I mean, have you felt extra defensive attention coming into the season?
Yeah, most definitely. But even if you look at our season earlier last year, the second lineup I think that we had was it took a little bit to get right, to get comfortable. It's only our third game. We have new players. We're trying to get everybody acclimated. We got a lot of new guys. So, it just comes with time, especially the type of basketball we play, the type of style that we play, trying to get everybody their roles, their positions, what they're good at, put them in positions to be successful. Yeah, I know I'll be a focal point, but still find ways to dominate the second unit or whenever I'm out there on the court.
Jordan, do you feel like a defense kind of has to establish an identity the same way, you guys find a groove and put together some games offensively? It has to happen on both ends.
Our defense?
Yeah, that a defense takes time to kind of find its own identity too.
Yeah, everything does. Offensively, defensively, chemistry, rotations, personnel, everything. It's only the third game, so we'll figure it out as we go. And the coaches do a really good job of, putting us in situations to be successful. So just try to win games early on in the season, and everything else will, kind of take care of itself.
Fun was that second quarter?
It was really fun. Really fun. 89 points in the first half. It's crazy.
Obviously, you started a lot more last year, did more of the 6-man role in the playoffs. Is it a different responsibility? It's been 3 games, being more that catalyst, that main guy of that second unit, first guy off the bench, and kind of filling each other out with new players in that second unit as well.
It's not new to be the guy in the second unit, but we do have new players. So just trying to get the chemistry right. Some of these guys are coming from different teams where they run different offenses and different plays. I think what makes us so special is that we're really unique offensively. And it takes a little bit. It takes a little bit to kind of get accustomed for anybody who comes over here. So, just trying to do a really good job of, trying to just teach the guys, give my input and insight on things that they don't know if they have questions. But our chemistry will come with repetitions and experience as we continue to play more games.
All right, so Jordan Poole there says, he is feeling a little bit more of the attention defensively, and not too concerned, though, about the first 3 games of the season and everything being felt out and trying to be worked through with him leading that young unit and also trying to play with the starters. He is the bridge, truly, between the 2 eras of Warriors basketball. Those 2 eras right now, I think, are on display on a nightly basis as the Warriors try to win games and defend the title here. All right, let's hear a little bit more from the locker room or the press conference room downstairs here inside Chase Center. Andrew Wiggins, and again, it's so on brand that Andrew Wiggins hasn't really been brought up to this point. And from the 925 and the Xfinity mobile text line, two-way Wiggs playing excellent basketball. And I think him and Steph through these first 3 games have just been tremendous. I know Draymond had the elite defense in the game on Friday. Draymond was really good, I thought, tonight as well on both ends and doing everything. I think those 3 have really brought it, the first 3. But Wiggins, on brand. Of course, we're going to talk about Steph and the 30-30-30 in terms of 30 points in the first 3 games. But Wiggins just understated but steady, and they needed everything that he brought to the table tonight. So here's a couple of minutes of Andrew Wiggins downstairs after this one.
Is 50 points in a quarter, did you ever see that as being realistic in the second quarter like you guys did?
I don't know. That was a great quarter for us, though. The way we're moving the ball, playing off each other, defending. We're doing it all.
You brought up moving the ball. Was that maybe the biggest difference as far as the first half versus second half? Steve kind of talked about how the ball just kind of stopped moving when things went downhill a little bit, but it was obviously clicking in that first half pretty well.
Yeah, we moved the ball a lot, in that first half. Like you said, it kind of slowed up that second half, kind of got stuck a little bit.
Andrew, how do you feel about this? Maybe the strides you guys are making defensively? I know it's only a few games and they're really good stretches, and maybe some stretches that you'd like to see going a little bit better.
I think we're on the right path to start the season. Obviously no team is going to be 100% right now, perfect, but we're working towards it. Like we're only going to get better and better with every game.
Your current starting lineup had never played together before the playoffs last year. How quickly did it feel like it was like a cohesive 5-man unit, if you remember back.
I think it was really quick. I don't know. I feel like it was quick. I feel like as soon as we were all put together, we kind of just took off. I feel like every game was just better and better and better. Every series we got better. So obviously we reached the finals and won. So I feel like they put us all together to start the playoffs, and we clicked right when that happened.
How much does that 5-man unit feel like? How good of a place does it feel in? Because, number wise, you guys have basically been the best unit in the playoffs last year and to start this season.
Oh, we feel great. I can speak for myself. I feel great, out there with those guys, just the way everyone moves the ball, the way we're talking offensively, defensively, we're just tied in together.
Andrew, you kind of shared over the summer that you want to be seen as an all-defensive player by the time this year is over. But, given your hot offensive start, did you put some extra emphasis on coming out with a little bit of force offensively this year as well?
Yeah, I'm trying to do both, trying to score the ball and, play great defense, keep working towards and trying to be a two-way player, that can do both.
This is the second consecutive game where you guys have given up 70 points in the first half. What do you think needs to change going forward just to kind of set more of a defensive tone early?
We just got to lock in a whole 48 minutes of good basketball, good defensive basketball. I feel like we have our moments. We might have a good quarter, good defensive quarter, or a good defensive moment, but we just got to put it all together, and tie it into a whole game and have a whole, good defensive game.
Another nice night for Andrew Wiggins, and he just seems so at ease, so comfortable, at ease, and just like he's having the time of his life, and maybe even, dare I say, emerging a little bit as a leader for this Warriors team, just based on his steady approach and the way that he plays, being so complimentary to the other players that the Warriors have on this team. He's truly become a key cog in the Warriors machine, and it began obviously a year ago with being an all-star, and then the impact that he had throughout the playoffs, and in particular in the NBA Finals as the Warriors were able to win the championship. So we'll call it a night on that note. Couple of quick notes from this one. The Warriors now with 6 straight wins over the Sacramento Kings overall, including 5 consecutive games at Chase Center. The Warriors and the Kings are going to play each other coming up pretty quickly, 2 weeks from tomorrow night, right back here at Chase Center. And then the Warriors and Kings going to play each other 3 weeks from tonight. So 2 weeks from tomorrow night on the 7th of November, right back at Chase Center between these two teams. And 3 weeks from tonight on November the 13th, the Warriors are going to be in Sacramento taking on the Kings there. We already had the note about the 89 first half points, and we'll close out with a note on Andrew Wiggins, 20 or more in all 3 games this season, so 22.3 through the first 3. Also 3 steals for Andrew Wiggins in this one tonight to go with the 5 rebounds, and just, very steadying performance. So things going to get a little bit tougher for the Dubs this week, no doubt, as they head to Phoenix. The Suns did win tonight over the Clippers, handing the Clippers their first loss. So Phoenix bounces back after they dropped their last contest as they got beat by Portland the other night. So you look at Phoenix as they head back home to take on the Warriors. They are 2-1 on the early going of the season. So Phoenix back in action on Tuesday night against the Warriors. That should be a good one. The series that never was, the playoff series that never was last year, because Dallas went in and upset Phoenix by winning the final 2 games of that best-of-7 series to head to the conference finals. That will be rekindled. The Warriors and the Suns, we'll see how those two match up here in the early going on Tuesday. So that'll do it. Thanks to Sterling Bennett. Thanks to Craig Valentino, everybody in our San Francisco studios. I'm John Dickinson, and I'll be back with you from Phoenix on Tuesday night, 6 o'clock with Warriors Live from Phoenix, and then the Warriors and the Suns going at it. And then I'll be back after the ball game for Warriors wrap-up as well. So we'll talk to you then. Warriors improved to 2-1. They beat the Kings 130-125. You heard it right here on 95.7 The Game.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-200-1966. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-200-1966. That's